So next up, let's go to Daniel. Now, Daniel is a co-founder of Bebop PR, a Singapore-based PR and digital marketing agency that specialize working with a range of different businesses across Singapore, Southeast Asia, and most recently Australia. So today, Daniel has promised to share some insider tips on the who, the what, and the why behind effectively communicating your brand story, especially across very diverse markets. So with that, I will hand over to Daniel.
Hey guys, let me share my screen and let me know if you guys can see it.
Yep, we're good.
Outstanding. Okay, I know we got 10 minutes. I'm condensing this to 5 minutes, but don't worry, you guys can just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll share this presentation with you. I'm just gonna breeze this as quickly as possible, but I'll leave some time for some Q&A after that, all right? Okay, so in 5 minutes, we're going to go through a few key things. The things that we are focusing today are about time and place for content and the who, what, and why, and how it works for your business. Quick introduction about myself. Kavita did a great job. I'm just gonna skip this because you can read it later when I send you the PDF. All right, for you numbers people, because whenever we talk about stories, it's always the matter of people saying it's intangible. So here are some tangible numbers, right? As you can see, 55% of consumers are more likely to remember a story than a list of facts. And 68% of consumers say that brand stories influence their purchasing decisions, so on and so forth. Same thing. I'm just gonna
Gossip.
gossip. Yeah, it means tea is good for your health. It's also good for the mind. Depends on the kind of tea you want to spill, right? So for this, you must understand that this is a foundation for how you tell your story. We all come from different personal and professional backgrounds and understand that you can't win them all. If you're saying a story for everyone, you're not really saying a story for anyone. So put your best foot forward, yeah? Ultimately, 100% of your story comes from you. Cool? All right. So the first that we need to cover is about pain points and pleasure points, right? There's always a pain and pleasure point in every story. And how we feel about it is how we tell it. So it's sort of how you can tell bad news in a good way or make good news a bit muted. So for example, if there's a financial report or something that I want to tell someone, it could be we're spending way too much now, or what we spend now will lead to better things, right? And you can see there's these examples for when we're talking about the financial aspect, productivity. Like this takes 4 weeks versus in just 4 weeks, because for some people it's about context, as you can see the good doctor explain. With telling your story, usually you will have positive results for positive feelings. However, with all that I've added here, do know that there's something called compassion fatigue, or like there's less. You can get fatigued by good feelings. You can also get fatigued by bad feelings. And what I have on the right is the emotional wheel. Is something you can just find online, and I use that as a sort of a gauge whenever I'm writing something. That being said, sometimes you have to talk about the bad stuff as well. For negative feelings, one thing I realized is that something that causes people outrage generally works quite well. People don't like sadness. Like, think about it. When was the last time you wrote a good review for someone versus a bad review for a restaurant? Everyone gives 5 stars, walks away, but the guy that puts 1 star is ready to write a novella. So at this point, for good or bad feelings, it's always important to add an element of surprise. You know, when it's sort of like a roller coaster ride. If you can do that, you can stick the landing easier. Now we're going to go to time and place for content. The 3 times and places of content will be evergreen content. So there's content that you can create and write, which is always going to be relevant no matter when you click on it. There's going to be seasonal content, which is of course time sensitive, and for example, for some of our friends in the F&B or retail side, you have your Christmases, your New Year's, and all that. And there's newsjacking content, which is something that's very much based on there's a news or story that's trending, and you have to get to it, and it's extremely time sensitive. With evergreen content, generally you can do it for a main audience. It should be easy to understand and accessible to anyone. So for some of you who have a specific um, professions or specific industries, or you're covering a specific beat, think about it as an introduction. And most of the time, when you do start with the introduction, it lends itself to being a gateway for people to find out more. You know, so for example, the content types will be tips. Like I know we got some of our friends here who are into like mental wellness. You know, we got some of our friends here that are into HR. So for example, a tip on, in this case, I'm looking for a pet, right? So I can write tips on what's the best pet for me if I'm running a pet shop. Listicles are great as well. So people like things that are easy to read and you can bump through it pretty quickly because, as we know, attention span is a rare commodity these days. And of course, how-to content where you share things with people and they can work on things right away. Evergreen content can also be specific for your industry. This is where you're going to go more depth than breadth. And this is where you get to cater to a smaller audience. If you're doing evergreen content that's meant for your industry, this helps establish you as a thought leader a little bit more in your field. And the thing is that even though you're hitting a smaller audience, it's more targeted. Some people might say you're preaching to the choir, but there's time and place for that as well. Now, the things to note when you're looking at evergreen content, why everyone should be doing it. There's also, of course, SEO and SEM best practices, and that's what you can find online with how you write your words. And do know that with SEO and SEM these days, they look at context a lot. The algorithms gotten a lot smarter. And one thing is to avoid trends or events. Um, what I mean is that if it's an evergreen content, and if that particular trend or event doesn't link to it, and it loses its validity, avoid it. And the good thing about evergreen content is that once you have a long form, for example, a long blog post, you can actually slice it up. You can take small snippets, you can post it on LinkedIn, small bits, you can post it on Instagram, Twitter, whatever you have you, and you can create new content and new discussions from it, right? So if you're gonna start on your content journey, this is something that I advise everyone to work on. Next one is seasonal content. As you know, it hits, when you're looking at holidays, we look at special dates and look at industry events. I'm just going to go through this real quickly. For holidays, generally these work really well for our F&B clients or our retail clients. For special dates, right now, for example, International Women's Week, we have many strong female founders and many great stories, and that's when the media is very receptive to stories from women. Mental Health Awareness Month as well, that's always a good time to talk about stuff. So if you can tag your narrative and make it sync with what's happening, that works. And of course, industry events. For example, if you guys are going for your trade shows or industry weeks, there's going to be a uptick of discussions around that space. So you can get involved as well. For seasonal content, it's good to always plan ahead. So what I like to do is that on my side, for example, there's a MICE calendar. So when I look at the MICE calendar, I'll have an idea of which events or which seminars or which conferences are good for my clients to attend. So I'll just key them in on those dates, and I'll get some content ready as well. And also, it always has to be, goes without saying, but it's worth reminding, make it relevant to your brand and story. And do know that if you've got quality seasonal content, it can be repurposed. So any Christmas or New Year specials or thoughts, you can just bring them back and just change it a bit. And for example, even things with International Women's Week or Mental Health Awareness Month, it can be an expansion of what you've already created.
Daniel,
Next
about
one.
1 minute, 1 minute to go.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. All right. So, newsjacking, basically, speed is key. You have to take note of societal changes, and do note that this thing you can find it online as well. And don't worry, I'll send you the PDF. There's different life cycles for the story, so it can be reporting and talking about it as it happens, and it can be something that you look at when an introspection or something that you have afterwards. For news jacking, do note that speed is key. You got to tread with caution if it's a sensitive topic, and please check your content diligently because no one ever reads any edits. All right, I'm sorry, I got to blast through this last bit. With content, we went with the what and why. Now we're going to go with the who. If you're going to write a story, you can write a story about an individual who represents the brand. So you are your brand, people buy into you and what you do, and that's something that I feel is very close and clear for many of us here. And these are the angles that you can have. Content can also be about a duo. There's always the yin and yang. For example, the dreamy CEO versus the realistic CFO. So as you can see, Ben and Jerry is a example of a duo. And content can also cover a team. So when you're looking at this, it's always about it's good to write stuff where it's a work in progress. Like our team has been working on this. It's now in beta. In 3 months' time, it's going to be launching, right? Your content can also be about a product. For some of us who build strong SaaS products, this is where it's going to be going around. But just know that the aim for a lot of products is what it does for people. And to bolster this content, it's always good to get reviews and testimonials.
So Daniel,
Yep.
thank you so much.
Thank
That's
you.
a lot of really, really good content that I'm sure everyone can really benefit from. So we'll send it out to everyone post the call. And of course, Daniel's details are on BackBone. So if you want to have a chat, jump on the app, reach out to him directly, or add him to your favorites if you want to have a chat later this year.